I take offense to the chairman pointing out that all CEOs are corrupt because they're millionaires. You know, if you make a lot of money, you're corrupt. Yet it's bothering to me because, Mr. Chairman, you yourself have been very successful, rightfully so.
Did mention my name, I think. And I think you got an all-time record here. You've made more misstatements in a shorter period of time than I have ever heard.
Please correct me.
Well, if I'm worth $8 million, excuse me.
It's all public.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
What this debate is about in Florida and Vermont and all over this country is if Republicans get their way and if Democrats cave in, health insurance premiums will double for over 20 million people on the Affordable Care Act. Yes, you heard right. 20 million people will see a doubling of their health care premiums. You can't afford health care now? Of course you can. It's outrageously high. That's not Bernie Sanders talking. That is the Kaiser Family Foundation study. That is one of the most conservative members, Republican members of the House, Marjorie Taylor Greene, making that point. A doubling of health insurance premiums. And yet we have, in an unprecedented way, a president who has sued one major media after another, ABC, CBS, Meta defunded PBS, defunded the NPR. This is a president who does not want to be criticized. Well, guess what, Mr. President? In a democracy, you will be criticized. I will be criticized. Senator from Oregon will be criticized. That is what a democracy is about. And if you don't like criticism, get out of the White House. Get out of politics. You know, as a nation, what we have always expected in our democracy is that if you disagree with me, we debate the issue. You don't think I'm a good senator? Run against me. You think I'm wrong on an issue? Write a letter to the editor. Do a podcast. Be critical of me in any way you want. But what very few people in America believe is that we should give more and more power to a megalomaniac who sits in the White House, who disrespects every day the Constitution of the United States and the rule of law. And what saddens me very much is when we think back on the history of this country, going back to the extraordinarily brave men and women who put their lives on the line and sometimes died during the Revolutionary War. Tens of thousands of Americans took on the greatest military power on earth, led by the King of England, in order to say, we are tired of your rule. We want to rule ourselves. And then in 1789, these brilliant people came up with a constitution, and the essence of that constitution, having learned their lesson from the King of England, who had absolute power, is what they said: we are going to create a constitution that will never give absolute power to any one person or one entity. So they created an executive branch, the president, legislative branch, Congress, House, and the Senate, and a judiciary whose function is to provide checks and balances on each other. Rather extraordinary document, 1789. And since then, we have had so many millions of men and women putting their lives on the line and sometimes dying in order to defend that Constitution, to understand that what freedom is about is the right to disagree, that we do not have to live under the control of one person. And in an unprecedented way, and I know my colleague from Oregon has been talking about this, every day there is another attack on basic American freedoms. The First Amendment, not the second, not the third, First Amendment to the Constitution is freedom of the press. And that was not an accident. They understood that in order to maintain a free society, you had to have the right of people to express their point of view, to write what they wanted to do, to rally people around their point of view. And yet we have, in an unprecedented way, a president who has sued one major media after another, ABC, CBS, Meta defunded PBS, defunded the NPR. This is a president who does not want to be criticized. Well, guess what, Mr. President? In a democracy, you will be criticized. I will be criticized. Senator from Oregon will be criticized. That is what a democracy is about. And if you don't like criticism, get out of the White House. Get out of politics. We're not going to sit back and allow one media after another, intimidated, frightened that if they stand up tomorrow and run a story critical of the President of the United States, oh my God, they may be sued. And you got an FCC chairman, I think, I say to my friend, during the Jimmy Kimmel episode, was now threatening to rescind licenses of networks if the White House did not like some of the content that was coming out. That's not the America that we love, not the America that we are prepared to defend. But it's not just the media. You got a president who was suing law firms. And what was the crime of these law firms? What did they do that was so terrible? Well, they had clients who went to court against the president. Gee, last that I heard, that's what happens in a country. You know, people go to court. And we don't then try to blackmail and intimidate law firms by saying, we're going to sue you. You better not have clients who are going to attack me. We have a president now who's going to war against universities, trying to break freedom of speech, freedom of dissent on college campuses. You stand up, you protest, hey, we're going to take away money from you. We don't like the content of your courses. We don't like your teachers, your faculty, the president of the university. Your views on Gaza? Sorry, you're not going to get federal funding. We have a president who's usurping the powers of the United States Congress. Every fourth grader understands Congress has the power of the purse. President, if he likes it, signs the bill. But when you sign that appropriations bill, that money goes out. You don't have the right to say, oh, California, New York, Vermont, you voted against me. You ain't going to get the money that was appropriated. That is not what this country is about, and it is not what the Constitution is about. A few minutes ago, Senator Blunt Rochester asked, I thought, a pretty profound question, and that is, what is the relationship between authoritarianism and the healthcare crisis that we're in right now? And as the senator from Oregon has mentioned, when Trump was inaugurated, sitting right beside him, right behind him, were the three wealthiest people in the world. Remember that, the senator from Oregon? It was Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg. And right behind them was some 14 or 15 other billionaires. Oh, there's, all right, thank you, Senator. All right, there's Mr. Zuckerberg, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Musk, and a couple of other billionaires there as well. And I was thinking, I was at the inauguration, kind of up front, and as I listened and I saw what was going on, heard Trump's speech, I was thinking about Abraham Lincoln in Gettysburg and one of the pivotal battles of the Civil War to end the abomination of slavery. And Lincoln gets up a few days, I think, after that terrible war, blood still on the ground. And he says to the American people, a few days after that battle, he said, these brave soldiers, in so many words, did not die in vain. Because they died in order to maintain a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not as Trump would have us, a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class.
You've been in office for 28 years, and you and your wife have amassed a wealth of over $8 million. And in fact, your quote on being wealthy and being a millionaire was, well, if you write a bestseller, you can be a millionaire too. If you can be a millionaire, why can't Mr. Schultz and other CEOs be millionaires and be honest too? If that's the case, then why is it that Mr. Schultz, who actually creates jobs and a bestseller of a book isn't creating any jobs? Why is it that he's corrupt and you're not? Why is it that all CEOs are corrupt because they're wealthy, and yet our chairman, who is wealthy, and I'm glad you are, you're not? But when you lean towards socialism, what you think is government is the answer and unions are the choice. What is wrong with the CEO defending his company and openly saying that he is providing good benefits and paying higher than everybody else? But yet, if you're not part of a union, you're also paying starvation wages. What hypocrisy. What bias. Chairman, you are chair of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. We shouldn't have a biased approach. We should have what's best for America.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
If I'm worth $8 million, that's good news to me. I'm not aware of it. That's a lie. All right? Number two.
Part of public records.
You're probably looking at some phony right-wing internet stuff. It ain't true.
No,
All right? You should read beyond that. It is not true.
it's
All
part
right?
of public records.
No, it is not public record.
Okay. Well, you made
It is not
$1.7 million on your book.
public record.
You made
All right? It is-
1.7 on your book.
Excuse me. I've got the mic now. Number
you not
two,
make the statement
I
that if
have
you want to
the
be a
mic
millionaire?
now. I've got it.
Did you
had
not
your
make
time.
that statement?
You had your time.
Okay.
All right? You're not telling the truth. Second of all, you got no evidence that I have ever said that all CEOs are corrupt. I have never, ever said that.
Probably not all, but every time you talk
probably
about
not,
CEOs,
that
you do
shouldn't
say that.
Say it. Furthermore, what this hearing is about is whether or not you talk about being pro-union. Really, what this hearing is about is whether workers have the constitutional right to form a union. The evidence is overwhelming, not from me, but from the National Labor Relations Board, is that time after time after time, despite what Mr. Schultz is saying, Starbucks has broken the law and has prevented workers from joining unions to collectively bargain for decent wages and benefits.
It might be a good idea, a radical idea, but in the midst of the crises that we are facing, it really might be nice for Speaker Johnson to actually bring House members back to Washington after their 18-day vacation. The American people are nervous about this shutdown. Federal employees are deeply disturbed. People are frightened. Republicans in the House should return to work. Madam President, as we all know, Senate rules require a 60-vote majority in order to pass a budget, 60 votes. And that means that passing a budget requires bipartisan support. That is why decades ago the rules were established. It is very rare that one party has more than 60 votes. So if you need 60 votes, it means that you have to compromise, you have to negotiate. When Democrats were in power, they had to work with Republicans to get the 60 votes. When Republicans in the past were in power, they had to work with Democrats to get the 60 votes. That's the way it worked. But not now. This time around, the Republicans have refused to negotiate. Basically, what they are saying is it is their way or the highway. Take it or leave it. So, Madam President, within that context of Republicans refusing to negotiate, what is this shutdown about? What are the major issues that separate the parties? Well, it is not complicated. Madam President, as everybody in America knows, our healthcare system today is broken, it is dysfunctional, it is cruel. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world, but we are the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. And in fact, our health care outcomes are worse in most cases than other major countries. It is a broken system. Today, in the richest country on earth, 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, and that results in some 60,000 Americans dying every single year unnecessarily because they can't afford to go to a doctor. We pay the highest prices in the world for health care. It is unbelievable and unsustainable. We are now spending over $14,000 for every man, woman, and child. When you throw in Medicare, Medicaid, employer-covered health care, individual costs, over $14,000. That is insane, almost twice as much as other countries around the world. We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. 1 out of 4 Americans can't afford to go and fill the prescription their doctors write. In America today, in our great country, we don't have enough doctors. People all over America, in Vermont, all over America, have to wait months to get in to see a specialist. We don't have enough nurses, massive nursing shortage. We don't have enough dentists. We don't have enough mental health counselors. And our life expectancy, how long we live, is substantially lower than other major countries, despite the fact that we spend so much more. Now, given that reality, given that our healthcare system is broken, one might think that the issue we are debating today is how do we improve it? How do we make sure that in America we appreciate health care as a human right, which it is? How do we guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child in a cost-effective way? In my view, that is moving toward a Medicare for all single-payer system. Other people got ideas, bring them forward. Health care is a human right. But that is not the debate we are having now. The debate we are having now is not how we improve a broken healthcare system, but how we prevent a broken healthcare system from becoming even worse. And I will tell you, Madam President, as the ranking member of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, somebody who has studied this issue for a while, I fear very much that if we do not stop Trump's attack on the American healthcare system, the entire system could collapse. We are on the verge of that right now. People can't afford health care, people can't find doctors, people can't find mental health counselors, people can't afford prescription drugs. We have a drug epidemic. We are on the verge of collapse. Madam President, what this debate is about in Florida and Vermont and all over this country is if Republicans get their way and if Democrats cave in, health insurance premiums will double for over 20 million people on the Affordable Care Act. Yes, you heard right. 20 million people will see a doubling of their health care premiums. You can't afford health care now? Of course you can. It's outrageously high. That's not Bernie Sanders talking. That is the Kaiser Family Foundation study. That is one of the most conservative members, Republican members of the House, Marjorie Taylor Greene, making that point. A doubling of health insurance premiums. Does any member of the United States Senate want to go home to their district and explain why you're going to double premiums? But it's not just raising the outrageous cost of health care in America even higher. As a result of Trump's big, beautiful bill, 15 million Americans are going to be thrown off of the health care they have because Trump and the Republicans made the largest cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act in American history. And let us be very clear. These cuts not only impact 15 million Americans, that would be a tragedy unto itself. They will devastate nursing homes. Right now, the situation of nursing homes in Vermont, and I expect many other states in this country, is a disaster. They are understaffed. Nursing homes in an aging society are shutting down. Where will people who are old and can't take care of themselves, who are disabled, what happens to them if the nursing home industry collapses in America? Community health centers, something that I've worked on for many years to increase funding. Over 32 million people access community health centers. They provide primary health care, dental care, mental health counseling, lower-cost prescription drugs. They will suffer enormously, cut back on services, perhaps shut down, because of that legislation if we do not deal with that. Rural hospitals, Republicans say, oh, we put $50 billion into rural hospitals. Yeah, but you cut $150 billion. And all over this country, rural hospitals are teetering on the edge. Many of them have already closed down over the years. So you live in a rural America, state of Vermont, you want a hospital nearby? Well, that hospital may not be there. Now, why did Trump and the Republicans make these massive cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act? And the answer is not complicated. It was important for them to provide $1 trillion to the top 1%. $1 trillion. Massive cuts to health care, $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%. Now, so let me make the very radical suggestion that Elon Musk, who is now worth some $500 billion, does not need another tax break. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of America. Musk himself owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. Top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 93%. Never before have we seen such income and wealth disparity. Republicans said we're going to massively cut Medicaid, ACA, in order to give tax breaks to the richest people in America.